So for those of you that haven't been following along closely, the roadmap for Fedora in 2021 really is pretty clear. We have kind of three high-level goals. One is to release version 6 of the software, which I'll talk about more in a moment. The second is to release robust migration tooling, and this targets all previous versions, so not just version 3, but for those that are using version 4 or 5, we have tooling that's bundled with the release that supports migrations from all previous versions of the software. And from there, really our focus shifts to just supporting the community in adopting the software, either as a new installation or, more importantly for us, supporting all of the migrations from previous versions to make sure that everyone's able to get to the latest version of the software. And we may add other things, and it'd be interesting when we have the breakout session later on Fedora 6, there are some other external tools that are related to the program that we know folks in the community are interested in using. So it'd be good to hear from everyone about other tools and features that you're interested in once we're able to get the release out the door. And in terms of 6.0, I mean, I've done lots of presentations on Fedora 6 specifically before, so this isn't intended to be a deep dive, but I'm happy to answer questions if folks want to know more. At a high level, really what we're trying to do with Fedora 6 is kind of return to the digital preservation sensibilities of Fedora 3 that a lot of folks in the community really like, and enhancing those features further, while at the same time improving the performance and scale of the software relative to version 4 and 5. And we've done a lot of testing on this so far, and we'll have more to share soon. We actually have some fairly high scale testing going on with one of our community institutions this week. And so even by next week, we should have some more results to share there. But third, and one of the more important things that we're trying to achieve with the software release is just making it so migrations are easier, but also making it so you will need to migrate less often in the future, so fewer migrations overall. And a lot of that has to do with our decision to adopt the Oxford Common File layout, which, again, I've presented on before, as have others in the community. At a high level, this is really just a simple, open standard approach to the layout of preservation persistence. In other words, how you lay out your files and folders on disk in a way that supports digital preservation best practices, and gets back to some of the transparency that we had in Fedora 3, but in a much more standardized way, and allows you to rebuild your repository from the files on disk, and has that independence between the application and the files that you're storing. So just an update on our current status. We've actually made really good progress, even during this pandemic year, on Fedora 6.0. So in December, we released an alpha build of the software and did some testing over a couple of months. I think we actually had a second alpha release as well. And then just at the very end of February, we released Fedora 6.0 beta. And this is actually a feature complete beta that is very close to what we will put out for the production release. So it's been fairly heavily tested all throughout. We do have a few bug fixes and improvements and optimizations on the schedule to get in before the release, but we anticipate being able to cut a release candidate relatively soon. And our goal is sort of for the second quarter of 2021, so sometime before the end of June, to be able to release Fedora 6.0. And that's, we're on track to do that unless we get feedback from community members that shows us that there's something really bad that we need to stop and fix and delay the release. But unless we hear something like that, then that's our intended schedule for the release. At the same time, you may have heard that we're working on a grant-funded project from the Institute of Museum and Library Services in the United States, worth about $250,000 over 18 months. And the focus here, this work began in September, the focus here is on supporting Fedora 3 to Fedora 6 migration. So this grant is extremely well aligned with our overall program goals. It's just kind of fortunate timing that the grant came in at a time when we were nearing the completion of Fedora 6, and we could really use this work to help support those efforts. And as many of you know, most Fedora installations are still using version 3. I know many of you on the call have Fedora 3 installations. And we recognize that the content in those legacy systems is at risk. It's running aging software, and over time that software becomes more and more vulnerable. And the failure of those systems can result in data loss, which we certainly don't want. So, but at the same time, we recognize that migrations take a lot of time and effort. And this was particularly true in the migration from Fedora 3 to 4 or 5. There just seemed to be, we didn't have enough really good tooling to support these kinds of migrations, and we didn't have the support the community needed. So that's something we're trying to address. So, overall, the goal here is trying to bring the community forward to a modern and supported version of Fedora, which is really, as I said, well aligned with the overall Fedora program goals. So this grant has a few phases. We're in the first phase now that we hope to wrap up in the next couple of months. And here we're working with a couple of pilot institutions to complete a migration and document that whole process, as well as the metadata mapping and decision-making that goes into any kind of major migration, with a goal of producing a community toolkit. So we're working on that now, and hope to have something by about the midway point of the year to share with the community, so that everyone can take this up and try it out and let us know if it's working or not. We do have a couple of pilot partners where this is a US funded federal grant. The partners had to be in the US. So we're working with the University of Virginia, which has a Fedora 3 repository with a custom front end, as well as Whitman College, which is an Islandora installation also running Fedora 3 in the back end. And that represents many of the institutions in the community. There are several hundred Islandora installations, and we certainly want to support them, but there are also lots of people using custom front ends. In phase 2 of the grant, which start around June, here we're just hoping to share this toolkit that we develop with the community, including all of you, and get some feedback and then iterate on that. So figure out where the gaps in documentation are, what else might be useful to help people move forward, etc. And then finally, we plan to host an in-person migration training workshop. Could be later this year, could be early next year. Again, the pandemic has kind of thrown some uncertainty into any sort of in-person events. Fortunately, if we need to, we can request an extension for the grant. So this event may happen in the spring rather than the fall. I'm not sure just yet, but it's going to be intended to be a free to attend workshop, and there is some support within the grant for travel funding for folks that want to attend but couldn't otherwise afford to attend. And so finally, we're collecting a lot of feedback throughout, and of course, once the grant ends, we still need to be able to support this work, and we're fortunately able to do that through our membership funding. So as you may know, Fedora is community supported, but is also membership supported. So the staff, people like me and Erin that work on the program, are all funded through annual membership contributions from many institutions around the world, and some of those institutions are represented here on the call. And I certainly want to say thank you to all of you that have advocated for Fedora at your institutions and support us through membership. It's really only through that membership that we're able to continue this work. And again, due to the pandemic year, we lost a number of memberships over the past year that have sort of made it harder to continue this work. The grant, fortunately, has sort of propped us up for about a year and a half, allowed us to continue staffing the program and doing everything. But we do need to sort of regain these memberships that have been lost and continue to support the program next year once the grant's over. Otherwise, we might be at risk of reducing staff and unable to sort of continue delivering on all the value that we're trying to deliver through the program. And that's part of what Erin's going to talk about. We're trying on the one hand to make sure we're delivering on software releases and on tooling and documentation and support for the community to give you all what you need to use Fedora successfully at your institutions. But at the same time, we're also trying to do what we can on the community engagement side to also support these efforts. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin to talk a little bit about what she's been doing since coming aboard the program a few months ago. Oh, you're muted, Erin.
Yep.
There
Yep,
you go.
got it. So, as David mentioned, I am the program coordinator at Fedora. So, I started back in October. And when I first came to the program, I actually don't come from a background that is similar. I come from a retail management background. So, I didn't know anything about digital preservation, repository management, anything like that. I knew how to engage people, and I knew I knew about sales. So those actually worked out to be assets in my favor coming into this position, though. But one of the things about being an outsider was when I was onboarding, trying to learn exactly what Fedora um, was challenging. So we quickly realized that none of what we were doing in terms of communication were speaking to people like me. So that really became a big part of my focus, was making Fedora accessible to everyone and start to generate content that we could use to showcase our work to different audiences. So the first thing that we actually needed to do was organize our content. Um, we'd just been doing stuff in the past that was kind of ad hoc. We were really just recreating and repeating things that we already knew. We were using different outlets to try to connect with people, some of which were working, some of which weren't. So the first thing David and I did was actually just put everything down on paper and lay it all out. And this inevitably led us to the creation of our monthly communication strategy, which is right here. There we go. So this is just a high level snapshot of all of our communication pieces. It shows on the strategy who's responsible for the content creation, when they get distributed, who's responsible for distributing it, and where it goes. So obviously there's flexibility within this. We can change around weeks 1 and 3 if we need, or whatever kind of works best for us. But this acts as a guide to make sure that we're giving regular communication, that we know what channels we're sending it out on, and that we're doing it on an ongoing basis. And so I'm just going to run through it really quickly. If you are following any of our, if you're signed up for our email list or anything like that, you've probably seen most of this stuff. But just really quickly here, every month we do a newsletter. So program highlights from Fedora and our partner communities. We send it out and just give an update to the community on what we've been working on for the past month. David also releases a grant blog post update. So this gives everybody an update on what the progress is of the IMLS grant that he and the pilot partners are working on. We also put out a demo video. So these have been really helpful. The tech team and David and I came up with a list of features, especially with Fedora 6 coming out, features that we thought would be of interest to people. And we've been releasing these monthly demo videos to our YouTube channel so that people can see what's upcoming, but then also refer back to them once the software is released, and if they need support going through different pieces. And then the last thing that we do is a general interest blog. So again, this is more the high level piece, fun reading, just to give Fedora kind of a new light to the community and get us looking at it through a different set of eyes. So through the creation of the calendar, we actually realized a few things. We realized that there were things we were doing that were successful, and also some things that weren't successful. So we are a very small team, and with limited time and resources, we really wanted to focus our actions on doing fewer things, but doing them better. So we ditched some of the low return channels that we had been previously trying to use, and really focused our efforts on the things that we were getting the best return on our investment. So I think a lot of times people just try to do a lot of stuff and hope that something sticks. But when you're on a small resource, when you have small resources like we do, it's better to stick with quality over quantity. So that's really what we're doing, is we've targeted in, or we've really drilled in on what we think is working best, and focusing our efforts there. So, I mean, there's no reason that we can't go back to those channels later on once we've established, our process, and maybe the community asks for it. But right now, we're focusing our efforts on doing these items and doing them well. So the other thing that we have been fortunate enough to have is partner communities like Samvera and Islandora. So we've been working closely with both of those communities to share best practices and share ideas and resources across our communities. And really, it's this idea that we have of raising all boats, and by partnering with them and working together to do this stuff, we're really kind of pushing forward, all of us together, for our communities, because that's really what we're in it for. So and I guess the last thing I want to touch on here is just one of the neatest things about being an outsider and being to come in or being able to come in is bringing new ideas. So trying fun new things. So, like Fedora Bingo, for example. And also this past holiday, we did a fun little engagement activity. I do see some names on here that I saw submit some answers, but we did a little trivia, multiple choice trivia game to the community for a chance to win a prize. It was a simple, silly little game, but it really gave people a new touch point with Fedora. So give them a chance to see it in a different light and reconnect with it in a different way. So I think it was fun. We got some really, really great responses, and the participation was really high, which was fun. So, that leads me to believe that people enjoyed it. And so we're going to continue to try new things like that. So that brings us to our future plans on the communication side anyway. So some of the things that we're doing with the community and kind of to celebrate the launch of Fedora 6 is we are in the process of generating a new logo to represent Fedora 6, and its release will coincide with the software launch. So we want to make this available to the community on things like t-shirts, mugs, things like that, so that they can have kind of a little piece of Fedora 6 with them. We also want to have a launch party when the software is ready to go, so at production release. And this is really just meant to celebrate all the hard work that's gone into Fedora, and especially give recognition back to all of the people that have helped get us there, like our committers and our tech team that have been working, tirelessly to get this software off the ground. So the launch party and the contributor recognition is something that's really important to us. So look out for that launch party coming up soon. The other thing that we are doing is hosting things like this. So the user group meetings, giving an opportunity for the community to come together, share their work, share their progress, and then we can also provide updates and feedback on what we've been doing. And we also want to, along with the user group meetings, is host regular training workshops. So make training available to the community and provide opportunities for getting the community involved with the new software. Fedora 6 has given us a really good opportunity to kind of re-engage and do this. And we want to make sure that the community can successfully adopt and use the software. So those are the things that we are working on, and what it all really is about is our users, and we're doing it to support you and show that we're reaching out, trying to increase engagement so that Fedora 6 is successful, both as a software and our community, because we are strong because of our people. So that's what I've been working on for the last few months. We really hope that you've been enjoying the communication. I don't know, David, did you want to take over here? And yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and I think we're just we're interested in your feedback, if there are things that has been working for you and things that have not. And just to sort of close out here, we're also very interested in getting your feedback on the software. So the beta is available, the migration tools are available. We'd love to get your testing and your feedback. We do have the breakout session later today, where there'll be an opportunity to hear from all of you if you've tried these or if you have questions. We have tried to capture some performance and scale requirements. I know a couple of you have contributed to this. If others have requirements, please do contribute those. I'll share a link to these slides after we're done talking, so you can follow these links. And of course, you can support us by becoming a member if you haven't done that already.